The first time I pulled up to my new lake house, I didn't get a welcome to the neighborhood. I got 3 police cars and flashing lights in my rear view. A woman in a blazer was screaming into her phone that I was trespassing on community waterfront and needed to be detained. And I'm standing there with a moving box in my arms thinking, how does buying a house turn into a crime scene in under 5 minutes? I'm Jake Carter, 34. The kind of guy who keeps receipts, reads contracts, and still somehow ends up learning the hard way. I'd just bought this place on Lake Briarwood, siding a little boathouse, a dock that looked like it had seen 1,000 summers. I wanted quiet, fresh air and a reset, not a neighborhood tribunal. I hadn't even killed the engine before the first cruiser stopped behind me. Then another, like I'd done something that needed backup. A deputy stepped out, slow hand resting near his belt, eyes doing that quick scan thing from my face to my hands to my truck. Then she arrives. Linda Whitman later. I'd learned she was the president of the HOA for Pine Ridge Shores, the kind of woman who moves like she's late for a meeting she invented. Blonde bob clipboard laminated badge on a lanyard like she's federal. She doesn't ask who I am. She points at me like she's identifying a suspect on the news. That's him. He's been hanging around the restricted waterfront. I want him removed. I blinked at her. Ma'am, I literally just got here. This is my house. She snaps her head toward the deputy. He's trespassing on community property. The shoreline is controlled by the homeowners association. He's not authorized. Deputy Ryan Hayes looked between us then at my truck loaded with boxes. Sir, what's your name? Jake Carter. I just closed on this place. I've got the deed in the glove box. Linda actually scoffs, like the word deed is something cute. I learned from watching TV. That paperwork doesn't mean what he thinks it means, she says, and I swear she smiles while she says it. The HOA owns the waterfront. Owns. She says it like it's normal to own a whole lakefront because you print bylaws and host bake sales. The deputy held up a hand. Okay, everybody breathe. Jake, you mind grabbing the paperwork? I turned slowly, kept my hands visible, walked to my truck like I was trying not to spook anyone. Behind me, I hear Linda loud on purpose, talking to anyone who'll listen. We've had issues. He's hostile. I told dispatch he wouldn't cooperate. Hostile. Me. The guy holding a cardboard box marked kitchen. I pull out my folder, thick, organized, tabbed because I don't mess around with a purchase this big. Closing statement parcel map deed copies the whole deal. I set it on the tailgate and flip it open. Linda leans in like she's about to slap it shut. You can't just wave papers around. This is an HOA matter. I look at Deputy Hayes and keep my voice calm. It's not an HOA matter if it's my property. Linda taps her clipboard like a judge's gavel. The shoreline is common area. The dock is not private. The boathouse is not private. It's all regulated. We can have you fined today. Fined for what I ask. Owning a house. For violating the rules, she says, and her tone tells me she's been waiting to use that sentence on somebody. You can't access the waterfront without HOA approval. Deputy Hayes takes the deed from me and scans it, actually reading it, not just pretending. His face doesn't change much, but he slows down like he hit a sentence that matters. Linda notices. That deed won't include waterfront rights, she says quickly. It never does. The Homeowners Association retains those rights. It's been that way for decades. I don't argue in circles. I just slide the parcel map forward and point to the boundary lines. This shows my lot goes to the water. Linda laughs short and sharp. Maps aren't legal. Our bylaws are legal. That's the moment I realize what I'm dealing with. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is a person who believes anything she prints becomes law, and everyone else is just a problem to manage. Deputy Hayes folds the papers back together. All right, he says, careful. For now, Jake, I'm going to ask you not to go out on the dock until we verify the boundary. That's the safest way to keep this calm. And I'm standing in my own driveway being told to stay off my own dock because a woman with a clipboard called 911. Linda's eyes glitter like she just won something. Thank you, Deputy. We'll handle it from here. I stare at her. No, you won't. She steps closer, invading space like it's her hobby. You're new here, Jake. Learn how things work. Pine Ridge Shores doesn't tolerate people who think they can do whatever they want. I almost laughed because that sentence coming from her was like a joke with teeth. For the next hour, it's paperwork and procedure, and Linda narrating the scene like she's producing a documentary about my downfall. She tells the deputies I'm refusing to comply. She tells them I threatened the board, which is wild considering I hadn't even raised my voice. And the whole time I'm looking around at curtains moving in nearby houses. People watching, people judging, people deciding who the villain is before they've heard a word. Here's the part that hit me harder than I expected, not anger. Something colder. I moved here thinking buying a place meant security, but watching those lights flash across my moving boxes, hearing Linda talk like she could rewrite reality with confidence alone, I felt this heavy drop in my stomach. Like maybe it didn't matter what was true, maybe what mattered was who had the louder voice and the quicker number for 911. For a few minutes I seriously thought maybe I should just leave for the night, get a hotel, come back when it's daylight and sane people exist. Because who wants their first night at a new home to be an argument in front of cops and neighbors? And then I remembered something very simple. I didn't come here to be managed, so I stopped playing defense. I turned to Deputy Hayes and said, "If we're verifying, let's verify properly. I want this on record. Who do I call at the county for parcel boundaries and waterfront rights?" Linda's head snapped toward me. "You don't need to involve the county." I looked at her and said it plainly. "That's exactly why I do." While she was still sputtering about process, an older guy walked up from the neighboring lot, slow steps, hands in his pockets, the kind of neighbor who doesn't waste words. Earl Dawson. Weathered face, sunburnt neck eyes that had seen enough neighborhood drama to last 10 lifetimes. He didn't look at Linda, he looked at me. "You the new owner?" "Yeah," I said. "Apparently also the new criminal." Earl's mouth twitched, not a smile, more like recognition. He leaned closer and spoke low. "She tried that with the last guy, not the cops part. The waterfront is ours part. He got tired and sold." Then he slipped something into my hand, a folded photocopy creased like it had been carried around for a reason. "This is from years back. Old boundary survey. Don't let her bully you into believing her version." I unfolded it right there. Lines, measurements, not fancy, just clean and clear. The dock, the boathouse, the shoreline, all inside the parcel boundary. Linda saw it and her face tightened. "That's not official. That's outdated. That's meaningless." Earl finally looked at her. "It's more official than your feelings, Linda." I almost choked. The deputy actually coughed like he was hiding a laugh. I called Summit County Records right there on speaker. A guy named Ryan Morales answered, and I gave him my parcel number. He typed for a second and said, "Yeah, I see the deed transfer, and I see an older easement note tied to shoreline rights. If the HOA is claiming ownership, they'd need recorded documentation. Do you have any addendums from closing?" I flipped through my folder, heart pounding, because this was the moment either I had it or I didn't. I found an old annex page stamped and referenced the kind of thing people ignore because it's boring, until it saves your life. I read the key line out loud. Ryan paused, then said, "If that's accurate, you have private waterfront rights to that stretch. The HOA can regulate behavior maybe, but they can't claim ownership of what's on your deed." Linda's voice went sharp. "This is not how it works here." Ryan, still on speaker, said, "Ma'am, I don't know who you are, but recorded deeds are how property works everywhere." Linda's cheeks flushed, and she snapped her clipboard shut so hard it sounded like a threat. "Fine. We'll have it surveyed. We'll see who's right." I nodded. "Great, let's do that." That night, Linda didn't back off. She escalated. An hour after the deputies left, I walked out to my truck and found bright orange violation stickers slapped across my windshield. Unapproved access, shoreline infraction, community asset interference. It looked ridiculous, like someone tried to ticket me with office supplies. And sitting at the end of my driveway, Linda's SUV, parked sideways like a barricade. She was standing beside it with 2 board members, 2 silent shadows holding binders, and she smiled when she saw me. No access until the Homeowners Association completes its review. I looked at the stickers, then at her. "You're blocking my driveway." "I'm protecting community property," she said. "If you step on that dock, we call again." I pulled out my phone. "Go ahead." Her smile faltered just a fraction. "Excuse me. I'm calling a county surveyor tonight," I said. "And I'm also calling my attorney. You can keep playing pretend CEO of the shoreline, but I'm done negotiating with a clipboard." She tried to regain control, jabbing her finger toward the water. "That dock is not yours. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I just said, Linda, you don't get to declare ownership because you want it. The next morning, Mark Dalton showed up, county surveyor quiet guy, professional gear, tripod, and measuring equipment like he was setting up a science experiment. Linda arrived too, of course, dressed like she was coming to court. Mark didn't care about her outfit, he cared about the markers. He set stakes, checked coordinates, read measurements, and walked the line like it was a simple math problem with one correct answer. Linda hovered, trying to talk him into a different reality. You should measure from the community point, she insisted. The homeowners association established. Mark didn't even look up. I measure from recorded boundary points. When he finished, he walked over, wiped his hands on his jeans, and said, Jake Carter, that's me. This dock and boathouse sit within your parcel boundary, he said, calm as weather. The shoreline here is yours based on the recorded deed and markers. Linda made a sound like air escaping a tire. That's impossible. Mark shrugged. It's not an opinion. She lunged for his paperwork like she could grab the outcome and rip it up. Mark stepped back, and Deputy Hayes, yes, he was there again because Linda had demanded security moved between them. Ma'am, Hayes said, voice firm now, do not interfere. Linda's eyes flicked around like she couldn't believe the room wasn't obeying her. This is a takeover. He's manipulating the county. I couldn't help it, a short, tired laugh. Lady, I'm manipulating my moving boxes. That's about all I've got time for. That's when Aaron Blake, my attorney, arrived, sharp, efficient, zero patience for theatrics. She spoke to the deputy, then to Mark, then she turned to Linda with a folder that looked heavier than hers. Linda Whitman, Aaron said your board has been asserting ownership rights that do not exist in recorded property documentation. Continued harassment, obstruction, and false reports expose you and the homeowners association to liability. Linda tried to cut her off. We're protecting the community. Aaron didn't blink. Then protect it by following the law, Deputy Hayes asked. So what happens now? Aaron opened the folder and held up a stamped notice. Now the county records office is flagging prior shoreline redraw filings connected to the HOA. There will be an investigation, and effective immediately, the board is instructed to cease enforcement actions related to this waterfront segment. Linda went still. The binder shadows behind her shifted like they wanted to disappear into the pavement. For the first time since I arrived, Linda didn't have a speech ready. No threats, no bylaws, no confident voice for an audience. Just silence. And the sound of her power slipping away because reality doesn't care how loud you are. Deputy Hayes looked at her. Ma'am, I'm going to advise you strongly to leave Mr. Carter's property and stop making false claims. If you continue, it won't be a conversation next time. Linda's jaw tightened, and she tried one last move, that tiny poisonous smile. This isn't over. Aaron's answer was quick. It is for you. Linda turned, got into her SUV, and drove off. Not triumphant, not in control, just smaller. And the orange violation stickers on my windshield fluttered in the breeze like leftover confetti from her failed little parade. I watched the lake for a second, then looked down at the survey stake planted cleanly in the soil, a simple marker, quiet and undeniable. And I realized something as I finally carried my first box inside. Some people don't want rules, they want power. And the fastest way to beat them is paper patience and proof.